informative, wonderful morning this has been. Thank you all so much for all the wonderful information that you have given us. This has been so great. Let me put this here so I don't spill over myself. Also to all of the survivors out there and to all of you who are going through the cancer journey, thank you for showing up today. I'm sure you've learned so much that is happening in the medical community. I am honored to be here to be the keynote speaker today for the 23rd Annual Breast Cancer Seminar. And I would like to acknowledge and say thank you to the incredible medical experts at Los Robles Medical Center on the latest advances in preventing, diagnosing, and beating breast cancer. And thank you also to the staff on how they guide breast cancer survivors and their loved ones through their cancer journey. Anyone who has cancer or who had cancer knows exactly just how important this is. Thank you also, Dr. Chi. Thank you so much. As you all know, he is an American Cancer Society honoree, and for over 20 years he has served our community as a leader in surgical oncology and to the contributions in the field of cancer and research. Thank you, Dr. Chi. Amy, where did you go? Amy, where are you? She left. Amy. You know, I met Amy Cummins just a few months ago, and already I have fallen insanely in love with you. Your light and your enthusiasm and your love and your loyalty to our community, to the friends that you have, and to everybody who knows you is an inspiration. You, my dear, are a champion of many, and I'm so blessed to have you in my life. And Amy asked me to speak here today and share my story about my life. I hesitated because I thought a story about my life was only interesting, well, to me. So, when I thought about what I could possibly share that would resonate, I really sat back and reflected on my life's journey and how many twists and turns it took to bring me to the place I am today. And to appreciate that at each defining moment in my life, good or bad, I was at the place I was supposed to be at that particular time. I've always looked at my life like chapters in a book. And when I started to reflect on the different chapters in my book of life, I realized that, well, maybe, perhaps, I had a compelling story to share. Each chapter has prepared me for what was to come next. The lessons learned, the wisdom I achieved, coping mechanisms I developed, and battle scars. That took time to heal. I was just looking at everybody who was up there. Thank you. I call them building blocks that help you build a rock-solid foundation to help develop your character and to stay strong, no matter what life throws at you. It would take a lot at this point of my life to crumble that wall. My house is pretty well built. It's sturdy, straight, and strong. So here I am, standing in front of you to hopefully bring you a message that has taken me a lifetime to embrace. One of happiness, tremendous joy, privilege, courage, setbacks, extreme highs and lows, failures, confusion, and ultimately to let go and let God. I'm a Midwestern girl born in Cleveland, Ohio, to a big, loving, loud Italian family. It was growing up in that environment that prepared me for my journey through life, where the love of God, family, friends, good thoughts, good deeds, and of course, great food. That was the driving force behind my life. I am the wife to the love of my life, Tony, for 35 years. I'm a mother of 7 children and 4 grandchildren, with more on the way. I'm a New York Times best-selling author with 6 books under my belt, an entrepreneur, a philanthropist, and a cancer survivor. I never stop moving forward. I never quit. I never say can't. And I always remember to stay in the lane of gratitude. When I was 14, my parents moved our family to California, and we lived the California lifestyle. I was very happily ensconced in school, and on the weekends I would go to the beach with my friends. A new friend of my mother's, upon meeting me, asked me if I would be interested in modeling. I never gave it a thought, but true to my nature, even as a child, opportunity presented itself, and I always explored. She told me she could introduce me to an agent, so my mother took me, and I was signed, and I started to work in fashion ads and newspapers after school. By 16, Max Factor put me under contract as their spokesperson, and my first magazine cover was for Teen Magazine. I was married at 19 for the first time and divorced 3 years later. We were just too young, but he has remained a very good friend of mine for all these many years. So I headed to New York to pursue a modeling career. I was extremely fortunate and found work right away. And within 6 months, I was on the covers of all the major fashion magazines: Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, and Cosmopolitan, just to name a few. Editorials in every fashion magazine. I became a commercial spokesperson for many brands, and I traveled the world as a sought-after international cover girl, and I commanded top pay. My career as a model spanned 20 years until it came crashing down. One day, one man, one phone call changed the trajectory of my life. Enter John DeLorean. John DeLorean built the famous futuristic gull-wing stainless steel car that lives in infamy thanks to the movie Back to the Future. The narratives around John DeLorean is he's either remembered as an American motoring icon or a charlatan and a fraud who thought rules didn't apply to him. I met John when I was 23 years old and he was 48. He was next in line to become president of General Motors, but left to start his own company, the DeLorean Motor Company. We were married a year later. We lived a high society, fairy tale existence life in New York and all over the world with our 2 children, Zachary and Catherine. And all of that came to a screeching halt 11 years after John's desperate attempt to find money to save his car company from going under. One evening while John was on a business trip to LA, I was having dinner with my children when I received a phone call from a reporter from the Los Angeles Times. He wanted a statement from me about John's arrest that afternoon. Yeah, I didn't laugh though. I said, what are you talking about? And the reporter told me John was arrested in LA and that he was in jail. And I said, for what? The reporter told me he was charged with conspiracy to obtain and distribute $24 million worth of cocaine. I know, I have to tell you, I was speechless. I immediately turned on the evening news, and sure enough, it showed John being arrested and handcuffed and being taken away in a police car. My phone started ringing off the hook. That evening, I took the red eye to Los Angeles. The scandal was front page news all over the world. The government froze all of our assets, and we were told by the co-op board of the apartment we owned that our presence in the building was no longer welcome. All of our friends disappeared and disassociated from us. I had to borrow money from my parents and family to buy food and pay bills. All my endorsements the very next day were canceled, as well as future covers and commercials. And I used my life savings to pay a whirlwind of attorneys, detectives, and security. Relentless paparazzi followed us everywhere, yelling, all the time yelling at me, at John, at my children, which traumatized them. It was very difficult. They did not want to go out and they were afraid to go to school. We retreated to our home in New Jersey after the government released some funds so that we could live. This went on for 2 years until John was eventually acquitted after it was proven that this was all part of an elaborate sting operation by the government. It was a government informant who basically duped John into believing he could raise the money he needed to keep his car company afloat. The informant, who wanted to impress the government as to his worth, then went to the FBI to tell them he could deliver them a big fish. One that would give them a major publicity on their war with drugs worldwide and make them heroes. That he had someone who was willing to do a drug deal to raise money for his business. Something that I can honestly tell you, John never agreed to do. When he told them who it was, they set off on an elaborate sting operation, culminating in John's arrest on charges to purchase and distribute cocaine. The many months leading up to the trial itself put a strain on our marriage. and I sat every day for 5 months as I listened to the testimony of many witnesses as prosecutors brought up John's personal business dealings. Things I knew nothing about, including putting me and the children in jeopardy. It gave me pause as to the type of person I was married to. I still look difficult. I was devastated. He was also charged in Detroit for racketeering after this trial was over. But at this point, I was numb and I was worn down at this point. I was in a bad place and I needed to get my act together to get my children into a normal rhythm of life. I moved back home with my parents to LA. The kids slept in my parents' spare bedroom and I had a comfortable place on the couch in the living room. It was okay. My kids were okay. I was okay. I was at home with my parents. All was going to be okay. My mother created for us the same warm, comfortable, inviting, safe atmosphere I experienced as a child, full of love, music, cooking, and enjoying meals together. It created a sense of calm and normalcy. I would lay on the couch at night and try to figure out how I could find work, how I was going to support my family. Ironically, it was an appearance on the Phil Donahue show I did after John had been arrested that actually gave me an opportunity to slowly start to build my life again for me and the kids. The president of the ABC-owned and operated station in LA happened to catch the broadcast. He asked me to meet with me because they were replacing the morning co-host and thought I would be a perfect fit for the job. I needed the money to support my kids, put them in school, rent a car, and a place to live. It was a godsend, and I said yes. And we slowly started to rebuild our lives. Enter Tony Thermopolis. The next phase of my life has been the most creative and rewarding. The first time I met Tony Thermopolis, then president of ABC, was at an ABC function. We danced around each other for months. Hollywood is a small town, and I kept running into him until one time, at another ABC function, we actually danced together, for real. As he put his around my waist, when I still had one, and pulled me close to him, I was overwhelmed with emotion. Where was this coming from? You know what? I just went with it. And 6 months later, we were married. Well, these past 35 years with the love of my life have been the most creative and fruitful time personally and career-wise. I hosted many talk shows, AMLA, Good Morning America, a guest hosted for Live with Regis and Kathy Lee, a home show, and too many more to mention. And once again, I became commercial spokesperson. So when shows are canceled or you move on, there's plenty of downtime. I've always worked and I can never sit still. When there was downtime, I would go nuts to find a creative outlet. So in between gigs, I started businesses, a jewelry business, a home decor business, which eventually I sold to my partners. I also used downtimes to write my books. There are 6 altogether. My latest one being, and you have it in front of you, is called Food for Thought. Now the inspiration about doing a book on food and how it affects the whole body stems from research I did on Alzheimer's. After my most wonderful, loving, inspirational, full of life mother was diagnosed with the disease. In the middle of writing the book, I received a call from my friend Maria Shriver, who asked me to join her women's Alzheimer's movement. Maria has been on the front lines fighting Alzheimer's for well over a decade, after she lost her beloved father, Sergeant Shriver, to the disease. She told me she was putting a panel together of women whose voices could help bring awareness to this cause. And one of those women is sitting in our audience right now, and that is Lisa Gibbons. Lisa, would you, I don't mean to, could you kindly stand up? Lisa, I want you to know, created the Lisa Gibbons Memorial Foundation in honor of her mother, who battled Alzheimer's disease. And she established the foundation a decade ago as a promise to her mother to tell her story and make it count. And it has since become a model, I love my women friends, they're so great. Empowering those who take care of their loved ones. she made her voice be heard. So thank you for that, Lisa. Well, Maria has been on the forefront as well, fighting Alzheimer's. So, I lost my place here, okay. So, okay, I told her, Maria asked me, well, how I would use my brain or my voice to help raise funds for research for Alzheimer's. And I told her the only way I know how to contribute is to do what I feel passionately about. And that is feeding your body, mind, and soul as a way to help you stay healthy. I believe all diseases start in the gut. Chemicals, pesticides, GMO foods, processed sugars, and trans fat cause diseases in the body. The environment plays a part as well as hereditary. As you know, breast cancer, colon, pancreatic, prostate cancer, and other cancers are on the rise, as well as Alzheimer's, dementia, heart disease, diabetes, liver disease. I could just go on and on. I feel with every fiber of my being that food can cause disease in the body, but food is also medicine for your body. Studies are promising. Proper diet and exercise help slow down the onset of the rapid progression of Alzheimer's and dementia. And as I was writing Food for Thought, it became clear to me that not only was the important information on Alzheimer's and dementia I was reading about, but also the effects of the food on your brain, heart, and gut. Across the board, the same rules apply to other diseases of the body. The food choices that you make each day affects your health and how you feel now and in the future. I researched every single ingredient in my book, and that went into each recipe, and tested it at least 3 times, sometimes 10, before it made it into the final edit. Food for Thought was released in the fall of 2018 and quickly became the #1 best-selling cookbook on Amazon for brain health. A portion of the profits from Food for Thought goes to the women's Alzheimer's movement. So you're all going home with a signed copy of the book, and I hope you enjoy it. And please know that the holidays are coming, so please consider this year to give the gift of health, and know that you are making a contribution to help others. So please tell your friends about them, send them the book, have them go out and give this book and have people read it. I think you'll be really impressed and fascinated by all the things that I write about in the book, and hopefully it'll help you make changes. But while I was working to finish the cookbook, I had to put it aside. My life took yet another sharp turn, one that rocked the foundation I spoke about earlier, questioned my self-worth, shattered my heart into a million pieces, and threatened my life. In the month of May 2016, I was fired from my job at Home and Family. It is a 2-hour daily live to tape talk show I was co-hosting for the Hallmark Channel for 4 years. It became my life. I loved my job, every single minute of a very long day. I went home on a typical Friday, looking forward to the weekend. The next morning, I received a phone call from the executive producer telling me not to return Monday because I was fired. Okay, well, did I do something wrong? Am I not doing a good job? Did the ratings suddenly dip? I was stunned. He told me the powers that be at Hallmark Channel wanted to take the show in a different direction. I said, okay, and what direction would that be? He said they wanted a younger demographic. Okay. Yeah, they don't know that the demographic is from 50 to death. I mean, they wanted So, to which I responded, and you're firing me because? And the next words he spoke hit me hard, and I had to hold my breath because I know if I exhaled, I was going to throw up. He said to me, matter-of-factly, because you are old. Well, I gotta tell you, I did not see that one coming. I held it together until I hung up and lost it. And then I started ugly crying, ugly crying that lasted all day until I went to bed. But I started again the next morning and started crying again, and that went on for weeks. I started to question my self-worth and who would hire me now that I was old. I couldn't recover from the depths of sadness over losing this job. My family was truly concerned about me because I'm always so in charge and put together, and for the first time, they saw me break apart. I was spiraling downwards to a place I didn't want to go, but I didn't know how to stop it. I realized I needed professional help to figure out why I spiraled so out of control over this event. No one was going to help me but me. I gathered my family together. I first apologized for having put them through this, and I acknowledged their concerns. I then asked them to be patient as I tried to continue to navigate through the myriad of emotions I was feeling, to give me space so I could process it all, especially my anger. I was really mad. How unfair I thought it was. How again, friends abandoned me. Being told I was too old, that really frightened me. I told them this is only temporary. I'm not even sure how long this will take, but I can assure you it will end, and then I can start to heal. I started seeing someone the very next day. Thank God, because 3 weeks after that, my mother passed away from Alzheimer's disease. Talk about the depths of despair and profound sadness. Whatever I was going through with the firing took a back seat as I grappled with the loss of my mother. I started developing really bad headaches, my body ached, and I was tired all the time. I had a difficult time focusing and concentrating. I lost my sense of taste and smell. I started to lose weight, and I chalked it up to the stress and strain of losing my mom. But something inside me said there was something more. Something was off. And when I developed an excruciating headache that lasted 5 days, I knew I needed to find out what was really going on. This next chapter is, I call, wait, what? That is what I said when I was told I had cancer. I was diagnosed at Los Robles in the ER after being admitted with a really bad headache. The ER doctor ordered a PET scan, and our dear friend who works there, Dr. Vishwadev, came in, and I thought he came in just to say hello, but I could see in his eyes that something was wrong. I could tell it was difficult for him to speak. What he had to say to me was not going to be good. After an uncomfortable pause, he told me I have multiple myeloma. Multiple myeloma is a rare type of cancer. Can't win the lottery, but I can get a rare type of cancer that affects bone marrow and alters your blood plasma cells. There's no cure for MM yet, but it is manageable. I was told that the survival rate was 2 to 5 years. I took the news rather calmly, and he explained to me what I was facing. I was admitted into the hospital that evening to start tests the next morning and to meet my oncologist and discuss a game plan. Lying in the dimly lit hospital room that night and alone with my thoughts, I cried myself to sleep. The next morning, I pulled up major research from every hospital across the country on multiple myeloma. And I also called my friend Tom Brokaw, who has multiple myeloma, and he walked me off the ledge after I called him with so many questions. He said the progress they made with multiple myeloma has been miraculous. They have tripled the lifespan from 2 to 5 years to 2 to 12 years. And Tom himself is 15 years out, and I know several other patients that are as much as 20 years out. So that gave me hope. And within 5 years, he told me, maybe less, there will be a cure for this disease, and I plan to be there for that. By the time I left the hospital, I decided that all of my energy and focus was to get well and to beat the odds. I no longer felt anger or sadness for being fired. And I know if my mother were still alive, she would want me to fight. So fight I did. I made the decision to have a stem cell replacement. I had the procedure in 2017. I went into remission 2 months later, and I have remained there ever since. For those of us who have or had cancer, knows how it rips you open and exposes raw emotions. But the collateral damage is just as raw, which I was not aware of at the time. All of a sudden, your normal rhythm of your life is altered dramatically, and everyone close to you goes down that rabbit hole with you. I never knew the depths of fear my husband had over the prospect that I might die. I knew my kids were shaken to the core as well. Tony watched me go through endless procedures, infusions, chemotherapy, shots, everywhere, stomach, legs, arms, just everywhere. And when I had to have a stem cell harvested, it took a week to collect, 5 hours at a time. He never, ever left my side. Reactions to the drugs I was taking turned me into a person that neither of us recognize or even want to ever see again, right? There were endless medications that he methodically doled out to me every day. He made sure all of my prescriptions were filled on time and drove me to the doctor's appointment, sometimes 2 hours away. He took charge of the house and made sure all of our children's emotional needs were met. I was physically, emotionally dependent on him, which I hated. I lost my independence and I took out my frustrations out on him. Anybody done that here? Anybody? Okay. Yes. He was always busy being my champion and supporting me in every way imaginable. Little did I know how all this affected him. I didn't know that during all of this, that Tony was keeping a journal. He was writing about his journey as a caregiver from a man's point of view. It was about 6 months, I was about 6 months into remission when Tony came to me with something he said he wanted me to read. It was his journal. He wrote down what he was experiencing and feeling in detail as he was caring for me. It was about what it feels like to hear the words that your wife and the mother of your children has cancer. That your life as you know it is now thrown into the realm of uncertainty about life and the future. He wrote it from a man's point of view and what the emotional effects felt like from a man coping with being the caregiver. He was devastated, frightened, and at times resentful of me and even angry with me. Although I never knew it or felt that, he went into survivor mode, bottling up all of his emotions. Our family is extremely close, and all of the kids made a tight circle around me, but somehow Dad got lost in all of the chaos. When I read the part that he actually resented me at times and was mad at me, I was shocked. I had no idea. Life as he knew it changed forever, and he didn't like that. He wanted his old life back. Although it doesn't take much to realize that our perfect life, our routine was pushed into an alternative reality with those 3 words, your wife, is it 4 words? No, 4 words. Your wife has cancer. Yeah, 4 words. After I read it, of course, I cried. I thought his words were so raw, moving, brave, and insightful. I asked him if I could share it with some friends, and he said, sure. If it could help one guy realize he's not alone, why not? I sent it to all my friends, including Maria Shriver, who put it in her Sunday paper. The response was overwhelming. So many men and women responded to the article, especially men, which was an eye-opener. They left messages and thanked Tony for opening up and sharing what it was like to be the caregiver and helped them understand that they were not alone, and neither was Tony. I will be posting the journal that he wrote on my website next week if there is anyone here who can relate and would like to read it. So what now? I have had a lot of opportunities and offers come my way in the past 2 years, especially for TV shows. Twice I came close to saying yes to projects that at another time I would have jumped at. But I kept my head down and I focused on the bigger picture. Well, what was the bigger picture? I let it evolve over time and let it reveal itself to me when I was ready to recognize it and take it in. Having to face my own mortality helped me focus on the things that were most important in my life. My family, my faith, my friends, and most important of all, life itself and how precious and fragile it is. And speaking of friends, when I talked about being abandoned by friends, it took me many years to be able to trust again and to have people into my life. And I'm so blessed to have them because through my friends, and right there sitting at my table over there, are the friends who lift me up every day. My mom always told me, she said, you have to surround yourself with friends that are better than you are, bigger than you are, and smarter than you are. And I took her advice and I did that. And a lot of them aren't here today, but it's because of you that I am a better wife, a better mother, a better friend, and a much better person through your examples. So I want to thank you all for lifting me up and being there for me, no matter what, unconditionally. I feel so blessed to have you in my life, and thank you for being here today. Okay, so I purposely took my time to figure out what I wanted to really do in this next chapter of my most wonderful life. I made a decision that I knew was right for me at this particular time because the passion I felt for what I wanted to accomplish overwhelmed everything else. I wanted to continue my work with Maria on diet and health for Alzheimer's movement and for the Multiple Myeloma Foundation to raise awareness and awareness. I realized how badly I wanted to give back. But this time, I wanted to give back and get back to work. But this time, I had a whole new agenda. I went back to school and took courses in business because I wanted to build a food company, of all things, a food company, where everyone can still enjoy the food you love to eat that will be organic, chemical-free, non-GMO, and available, if you want, gluten-free and vegan.
Yay!
My nose is running. I'm sorry, I should have brought one up there. So in February 2019, we launched our food company, Flourish, and it is committed to the health of mind, body, and soul. It's an all-encompassing commitment with a common cause. Good, we're all thank you, this is great. Yeah, I'm Italian, so I cry. Okay. Thank you. It's an all-encompassing commitment with a common cause, you and your health. The launch of the granola has been a huge success. We are in all the Air One markets, Gelson's, Amazon, and we are in the process of partnering with the Lux Hotel chain. And there's more to come. And we plan to roll out our soups, sauces, bone broth for pets, actually, with CBD, sauces, salad dressings, smoothies, desserts, salsas, grab-and-go, and so much more. This is my mission now. This is my focus. It makes me happy because I'm doing what I love to do best, and that is cook and to feed people. Like I said, I'm Italian, that's what I do. I cry, I eat, I cook, I love it. That's what I do. I love it. Yes, I have done a lot and seen a lot in my lifetime. The lessons and experiences have been many and have left me strong and assured. I know for sure that in life, no one gets a free ride. That eventually good, Annie, where's my Annie? Good triumphs over evil, right? Yes, that there is also a reason for everything. I'm realistic about life and people now. I'm slow to anger, much more patient and more thoughtful in the words I choose to get my point across. I realize the importance to acknowledge and embrace your passion. All of us have a gift, all of us, that is uniquely yours. And it's up to you to recognize what it is and to embrace it. I've embraced my fears. It helps me question the path I'm meant to be on. I've accepted life on terms that are not in my control. I've learned to stand up to adversity and to use your voice for change. I keep myself open to opportunity, even when I don't think it's the right move. I trust God and His infinite wisdom, even in my darkest hours when I was scared and thought I was alone. I wasn't. And most important, forgiveness. You need to forgive yourself and most importantly, others who have hurt you. If you are walking around with a grudge, anger, jealousy, resentment towards people, it actually stops you from moving forward. People can't access you. And I found that forgiveness sets you free, it helps you heal, and it helps you find peace. And to remember, it's all about the journey. It's great to set goals, but remember to take the time to enjoy the journey. Over 35 years ago, while Tony and I were first dating, his very first gift to me was a book from the Greek poet Constantine Cavafy called Ithaca. Cavafy spoke of the importance of enjoying a trip and not only longing for a journey, any trip, and not only longing for the journey's end. It's a metaphor that can be extended to many life's processes. And he wrote, keep Ithaca always in your mind. Arriving there is what you're destined for. But don't hurry the journey at all. Better if it lasts for years, so you're old by the time you reach the island, wealthy with all you've gained along the way, not expecting Ithaca to make you rich. Ithaca gave you the marvelous journey, and without her, you wouldn't have set out. She has nothing yet to give you now. Wise as you will have become, so full of experience, you'll understand by now what Ithaca means. So I'm going to leave you with this thought. I saw this quote on the wall at the airport, and it really resonated with me. It is a quote from Thomas Edison. Our greatest weakness lies in giving up, and the most certain way to succeed is to always try just one more time. And just one more time I did. I was just offered a couple of weeks ago from an international company to start the Cristina Ferrare brand for home appliances and for everything from home appliances to skincare line. It's a wonderful opportunity. And I decided that I was going to go ahead with it. I thought at this point of my life, my next chapter would read, okay, you can stop now. But I don't think so. My next chapter is, and my next chapter is going to be, I think I will continue. And I hope you do too. I hope you will face all of your adversities every day. All of us who have had cancer are going through this journey, that you stand up every day, be grateful, be positive, be forgiving, feed your body well. I love what you talked about this morning about how important, especially sugar. Do you know when I go in for my treatments for my, I have to go once a month to get an infusion that lasts 5 hours. And when they see me coming, they hide all the candy. They go, oh my God, Christina's here. You know, get rid of all the candy. Because I say to them, what part of cancer do you guys don't understand? I said, we were talking about the sugar, right? So I write about that in the book as well. So I hope you all will continue your journey, that you never give up, that you share, what you're going through with your family, talk about it, be open, be honest, be brave. And I want to thank you so much and Dr. Chi and Amy and everybody for today, giving me a chance to tell my story and share it all with you. And thank you, and God bless all of you.
Thank you very, very, very much, Cristina. And